We all know that Christopher Nolan is one of the greatest directors of his generation. I mean, after all, he does have the Dark Knight trilogy to his name. He has Inception, Interstellar, Dunkirk, and now we have Tenet. I mean, quite arguably the most talked about movie in 2020. And we're here to tell you whether that movie truly lives up to all the hype.
Tenet is written and directed by Christopher Nolan, and everyone has been talking about how this is the movie that's going to come back and save theaters in 2020. Is this the case? I'll tell you one thing, to describe the plot of this movie is going to be quite the challenge. Suffice to say that it involves a protagonist that ventures through a non-linear experience as he fights along with other comrades to save the world. And in this movie we have John David Washington playing literally the protagonist, because that is the only name that he is given.
Right.
We also have Elizabeth Debicki, Robert Pattinson, and Kenneth Branagh.
This is one of those movies where you have to hang and cling onto every single word, or else you're going to get lost. You're going to have some gaps. I mean, it's a jet plane that you just have to just jump on and just ride with it, and hopefully you get some gaps filled in along the way, because this will take you for a ride.
It's your typical Nolan fare in many regards. You're thrown right into the action at the beginning of the movie, right? You're just immersed in it, and then you have that thunderous, heart-pounding music which really adds some nice mood to the film. And it's relentless. It's action, non-stop action from beginning to end, and that might not be a good thing in this
Right,
case.
yeah, I totally agree with you, because this is an avalanche of information from start to finish. It ping-pongs you from one situation to another without much time to process, and that led to me kind of feeling uncomfortable often throughout this movie.
It's a movie that definitely feels emotionally distant. It's a movie that definitely feels void of heart, you know?
Right.
And I wish that they would have added some of that. And it's definitely a mind bender, and I think that this is a movie that's going to require several viewings to really
Yes.
get everything out of it. I mean, I thought that Inception was confusing when I first saw it, but I feel like this movie is on a whole new level of confusing. Really.
Yeah. I was in the theater and I'm thinking to myself, does Beto feel as confused as I am right now?
Yes. And don't get me wrong, like, you do understand the gist of the movie, right? I mean, there are some time travel elements in here, and they call it inversion in the movie, and really we can't say much more because then we'll reveal, important plot points. There are some really memorable scenes, one involving like an airplane that the characters are plotting to, create like a crash simulation.
Yeah.
There's another scene involving a car chase that involves some really cool inversion techniques.
Right.
And we'll leave it at that. And there's another one that really stood out to me was a building that both kind of like deteriorated and exploded, but also came like back up again.
Yeah, I mean, it had some very interesting ideas behind
really
it, for sure,
interesting
and
scenes,
super creative.
And this movie also works as a heist movie and an espionage movie for sure. And also in typical Nolan fashion, you're kind of thrown into this messiness, right? And a lot of the information is kind of withheld so that you're confused as a viewer for a while, trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together.
That's a good technique. I mean, that's a way to really get the viewer engaged and to have an interesting and creative premise, but again, a little maybe overdone in that department.
John David Washington, who does a great job, by the way, in the movie, but you don't really know anything about his character. There's no backstory to really know about him or care about him.
Right, like you have to take a lot of things on faith with these characters and just kind of roll with it.
Yeah, because it's just very, very plot-driven, like you said before. Robert Pattinson also did well in the movie. If I had to mention a character that I kind of felt for, it would be Elizabeth Debicki's character.
Right, like thank goodness for her, because they do weave her into the plot very well with with her relationship with her son and having this dysfunctional relationship with her husband, who is the antagonist. And then also they tried to develop this relationship with John David Washington, which, again, I didn't feel that chemistry, but at least they threw that in there so that there's some heart.
You mentioned the husband, right? I mean, the villain played by Kenneth Branagh.
Him and his crazy Russian accent,
I don't know if it was just me, but that Russian accent was just kind of hard to understand. I don't know. I mean, you really need to have some subtitles watching this movie.
Right, exactly. You speak of the accents, right? I was thinking throughout the movie, there are so many different accents that were actually throwing me off, because everyone, no matter what their accent was speaking super fast. And so if you're dealing with an Indian accent or a Russian accent or a British accent and everyone's talking fast and you're like not used to that accent, you're like, okay, what's going on? And so that kind of, again, added to my uncomfortableness in this movie. This is a visually stunning movie. Yeah, the cinematography, very purposeful. The backdrops, gorgeous. The sound, pounded in your soul. And the fighting sequences, which I thought, you used the word visceral, and yeah, I mean, it was very... it wasn't as over the top as John Wick, but some moments felt very John Wickish. So much to look at that you really enjoyed in this movie.
And you wouldn't know it, but the music was actually not done by Hans Zimmer. He was off doing the music for Dune, actually. But he usually does the Christopher Nolan film musical scores. This movie was actually done by Ludwig Göransson. But my God, like the music is such a forceful presence throughout the movie.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
Talk about like an auditory experience.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So back to the question we posed at the very beginning, is this movie worth all the hype and should it be considered a Nolan classic? Well, I'm going to say a little bit of yes and a little bit of no. On the positive side, this had one of the most creative premises I've seen in a movie in a while, and I really thought that it was visually stunning.
Yep.
However, we talked about the lack of heart and the fact that I was often uncomfortable while trying to follow a lot of the plot points in this movie, earns this movie 4 reels out of 5 for me.
I feel like this movie is going to be divisive. I think that people are going to have mixed feelings about it. What keeps the movie afloat is definitely the action and the intrigue, throughout the movie that kind of keeps you wondering what's happening and kind of keeps the mystery going. But at the end of the day, again, that cold feeling just left me kind of like, just
kind of
emotionally
wanting, huh?
distant from the movie,
Yeah.
And so for those reasons, I am going to give Tenet 4 reels out of 5.
Okay. And I do remember you saying something at the end of the movie, coming out of the theater, that this is probably one of those movies where you'll appreciate it more on the second or third viewing.
That's right.
Like when I watched The Matrix, the first time I was like, oh? But then after the second time I watched it, I was fine. So guys, have some patience with it. I'm sure if I watch it next week, maybe bump it up to 4.5 reels, okay? Now, when you guys watch it, definitely come back to this video, comment down below with us, let us know if you thought this was easily digestible, and maybe we're just morons, or maybe you actually agreed and thought, wow, this was kind of just shoved down my throat a little too hard. And don't forget to check us out on social media. On Facebook, we're at Real Screeners, and on Instagram, we're at real.screeners.
That's right, and please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel if you enjoy our reviews, and join us next time for some more real takes on movies. And this movie also works definitely, and this movie most definitely, no. And this movie also works as a heist movie and as an espionage movie for sure. And this movie...
You can't even get past your breath now. Göransson. I'm sure there's Göransson, Ludwig Göransson, John David Faja.